another week, another show of Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Kent McCausland join us on the screen. Kent, of course, as you know, former Hawkeye sharpshooting great, a member, and we're going to mention this throughout this show, but a member of the former most recent Hawkeye men's basketball team to reach at least the Sweet 16. And that was in 1999. And of course, you've seen Jeff Settles on this show previously, as well as Kent McCausland, both of them throughout this 6-year run on statewide television, as well as their former teammates or current teammates, I guess, in life. Ryan Lorsman and J.R. Koch, yes, Cooper's dad. So the curse has been lifted, as Jeff Settles said last week. So, Kent, I'll bring you in on that. The curse has been lifted after 27 years. Not only a Sweet 16, they went to the Elite Eight and darn near messed around and got to the Final Four. You were there. Great pictures of you on social media with some of your former Hawkeyes and Hawkeye former teammates. Great to see you again. Thanks for joining us. Fire away when ready, please, Kent.
Yeah, you bet. No, I think I had one friend reach out to me and just say, "Hey, are you guys like the '72 Dolphins where you pop the champagne before, after the team is eliminated and you're still the last Sweet 16 team?" And we couldn't be further from the truth. I was pretty excited, obviously, for Cooper, and JR, just as a father, Cooper running and jumping into JR's arms is a big hug. And, I've known Cooper for a while. It was Cooper's goal and dream to get this team back to a Sweet 16 and beyond. You just never know then at that point what can happen. And to do it really in his first full year, pretty impressive. And now, Coach McCollum and his group, staff, players, the new world of college athletics with NIL and everything that goes into it. You never know when these things are going to happen and when you're going to be back and when the bracket opens up. And in this situation, Iowa opened up their own part of the bracket, right? I mean, they were the upset team. Whereas sometimes you might be seated like we were, like a 5 or a 4, and you're really hoping, hey, what if the one gets upset and then you get, an 8-9, so then it's an opportunity, but you just never know. Then that's what the fun of the tournament is. It's the same reason that runs into March are so important for coaches and for legacies and everything. Is like, it's just a lasting moment because all eyeballs are on this tournament. And that's the hard part. Houston was fantastic. I felt bad I'd even go to Tampa. I just knew that, my dad would have gone to Tampa. He wouldn't care. He would have said, well, this is going to be fun. Let's go. And so then when they beat Florida, I booked my ticket that night, told JR, hey, I'll be down in Houston. And, I was just so excited for him and to get Nebraska then in the Sweet 16, which Nebraska is a very good basketball team. We lost to them and we beat them, right? We won at home. We lost on the road. But they're not athletically overwhelming. They're not like even in Illinois. Illinois is better than Florida, in my opinion. You watch those two teams play. But you just felt like, well, it's gettable. You could win that game. So it just was kind of exciting, even though Nebraska's extremely well coached and have really good players. But felt like, hey, if the ball bounces our way a couple times, then maybe we can get a win. And so all of a sudden you're on the Elite Eight, which really all that is 40 minutes away from the Final Four, which is just amazing that it happens that fast. And that's why the Sweet 16 is so important, is that once you get there, as Dr. Tom always said, it's just they're 2-win tournaments. That's what they are. It's a 2-win tournament, and then you go to the next one. And that's a 2-win tournament. You go to the next one. And so you just break it down into small goals, as they say, and it feels more manageable. And the Hawks were close. I mean, Illinois is really good. They look like they had pretty good control there in the second half. But what if you catch fire and you make a bunch of shots? And that's where Sturtz was in that first half, just making shots and kept them in that game and gave them the lead. So. Houston was great. Tons of Iowa fans. I got to see JR a lot, got to see Greg Bruner, just chat with him. Nicholas Bear was there, and my son wanted to get his picture with him because he's like, I grew up on Nicholas Bear. Like, I want a picture with Nicholas Bear. So that was pretty cool.
How many times Ben McCollum, especially on his radio show, used the word elite? And you talk about wishing something or, mindset something into being. He kept using that word Elite Eight, and they got to the Elite Eight even after the loss to Illinois in the Elite Eight, Kent. He still uses the word elite instead of good, very good, great. He uses the word elite a lot. And I love that. But also his mindset of, we're tired of being close in games. We're going to start winning these games. Those two things I wanted to highlight as well, Kent.
Yeah, as a coach, you don't look at your team the way fans do. Fans look at it as, oh, you lost at Penn State, man alive. Well, we're just not very good. And then you lose, a tough one at Maryland where that kid just goes off, and you're just like, man, this always happens to the Hawks. As a coach, you're looking at it as we're not that far away. We need to lock in defensively. We need to be elite defensively. We need, if we just do this, if we just do that, if I would have made a sub here, if I would have, tweaked something there, like he's learning about his team as well. And he has an expectation of what they should be. And they hadn't yet met that expectation. And so you just keep coaching them hard. And that's what he did. And, you get into that one game scenario where every possession is important. We knew we were playing with very thin margins. You beat Clemson. Yeah, you kind of looked pretty good the whole time, but didn't blow away, Clemson. Then you get to Florida. Well, you're really playing great, but now you're getting into foul trouble. Now, okay, now does the size take over in the last 5-10 minutes? But as a coach, you look at it differently. You think the best of how you can maximize your team. And so I think he saw something else. He saw opportunity to get better. Now, does that mean it's going to happen right away? The Big Ten tournament? Maybe. Does that mean it's going to happen next year? Maybe. But I think as a coach, you live it, you breathe it, you're pushing every day to try to get better. And I think that's what we saw with a Cooper Koch and a Tate Sage, and Tavian Banks against Florida was unbelievable. And then doesn't play a lot against Nebraska, but then Fulgaris plays, really well, but then doesn't play much against Illinois. So he's really trying to play those matchups that he thought he could maximize an opportunity to win. And so I think that's what you see and you hear from a coach in those situations. Extremely happy for those guys, especially Cooper, just because I know him. That's why he wanted to be a Hawk. That's why he stayed, is he wanted to not only, get to a Sweet 16 or further, but he wants to beat all of his dad's marks. So however many points he scored, he wants more. However many rebounds, he wants more. So he's on his way. And obviously JR is extremely proud of him too, because Cooper's a worker. Yeah, he's going to put in the work every day. And I think that's what Coach McCollum, you heard some of his interviews after the Sweet 16 games. Like, we want guys that are working, that want to put in the work, that want to get better. They don't worry about themselves, getting all the glory and everything. They just want guys that want to come to get after it every day. And so that was very cool to hear that. And Cooper's one of those types. So hopefully that's the kind of guys you're going to recruit. That's what McCollum wants.
That was awesome when you had JR join you last year on this show with me. And JR talked about that. He said, I said, I'm sure that's in the back of Cooper's mind. And he said, no, Coop said that to me right away. Dad, when I go to Iowa, we're gonna go to at least the Sweet 16 and beyond. That's my goal. And as you mentioned, Ken, he's very competitive in the house against his dad, but also his younger brother. And I love friendly competition. So, Ken, we've got you for 2 more segments. We'll take a quick break, come right back, talk Hawkeye women's basketball briefly, and then talk more Hawkeye men's basketball and the general state of college athletics in reference to NIL and portal. Folks, there he is, former sharpshooting great Kent McCausland. Be sure to go to his social media handle, as you see at the bottom of the screen throughout this show, along with mine. But Kent's show, Black and Gold Breakdown with Rob Brooks, the broadcaster for Hawkeye women's basketball and radio, but also Kevin Lehman, former coach and ESPN analyst. They do a great show. Check for listings and re-airings of that show. They do a great job deep diving into Hawkeyes as well. A show that started when Ken had mentioned his dad, by the way, Ken. Time for chips and salsa. It was you and your dad, Mac, and Rob back in the day. And then, unfortunately, we lost your dad a couple of years ago. He passed away, and Kevin Lehman stepped in admirably. So it's been a great show continuing on. So for Kent McCausland, I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by BettorEdge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on BettorEdge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kajewski, BettorEdge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at bettoredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. BettorEdge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Kent McCausland, former sharpshooting great for the Hawkeye men's team. The women's team, Kent, I'm left just shaking my head. And before we even get to the Addy deal, transfer portal entrance, and other things, I'm surprised that the women, it reminds me of a couple years ago when Caitlin Clark was on this show talking about it, losing to Creighton when they lost in a second round game at home. When you lose at home like that, when you're playing on campus, your campus, that's a stark reality and a tough one, Kent.
Yeah, I think home courts don't win games. You really do have to still come to play. Virginia, the tables are turned a little bit when you are the underdog. You really have nothing to lose. You're going home. You play free. You can knock down shots. You could take a gamble. What if it pays off? But when you are expected to win, you're at home. You almost play almost just not to lose. And I hate to say use that terminology. It's not that you're not trying to win. It's just it's a different urgency. Sometimes too, the home crowd starts to turn your mental thought a little bit. You start to hear the groans instead of the cheers. And you realize it's slipping away and you try to do something about it. Well, then that's not the right move. It can be difficult. And Caitlin Clark, hey, they had tough games too. Even when she was in her last year, she had tough games at Carver Hawkeye Arena to make their run. So March Madness is not about blowing people out and moving on to the Final Four. It is about grinding out wins. Sometimes they're tough wins. Fairleigh Dickinson came out and they make threes. That's what they do. And they made a bunch against Iowa and made it pretty tough on them as a 15. So nothing's promised. And I think, the Hawks unfortunately just, missed some key free throws down the stretch. Probably could have used another shooter, right? Taylor McCabe, probably a really key piece to that team that would have made a difference. And she probably knows that. And it's just tough. You're not available. And I think there was even a transition time for Coach Jensen and that crew to figure out how do we play without Taylor McCabe. And it felt like it had it figured out because the high-low was working so well with Stokey and Hayden was just a fantastic performer down the stretch. But you got to have that guard presence. You got to have people that can handle the ball. I mean, I think they talk about how important guards are in the end of March, and we've seen it. So tough loss. You really have to kind of regroup. You're going to maybe lose a couple through the portal. You're going to gain a couple through the portal. This is the new world of college athletics, in both men's and women's, across the country. It's just the way this is going to go for a little while until maybe they put some parameters around people transferring and the money and all that. But that's not happening this year. So you got to figure it out.
In Addy Deal's case, it seems to be kept less about her and more the state of college athletics, men's and women's.
I think we don't fully understand not only the pressures, but who's involved. Agents involved. Now we have agents involved. That's a whole new discussion. And you hear that from the professional ranks for sure, that certain teams have good relationships with certain agents. Certain agents like to work with certain people. You hear that from the NBA. I don't know who knows where this is coming from. Did she think she was going to play more? I don't know. I usually, in the absence of other information, I trust the coach because the coach is the one that's coaching them every day, seeing their development, seeing, hey, when I say something, does that person take it and go with it right away? Do I have to say it 3 times? Do I have to stop and take a timeout and reiterate? There are lots of things that go into running a college basketball team in who you trust in crunch time, who you trust at the beginning of the game. And I'm not saying Addy wasn't a trustworthy individual. All I'm saying is if a coach says, you know what, we're going to play this way and we're going to put this person in, then they've earned that playing time typically in a practice situation over several weeks, earned the trust of the coaching staff. And so it takes time. It took time for me to learn how to play college basketball. It took a year, it took 2 years. the speed of the game, all these different things that are involved, how important it is to take care of the ball. Um, and so every player goes through it except for those elite athletes that are just better than everybody, or they have height or they're, whatever. So I just think, hey, it's the new world of college athletics. Can people come back? Yes. Um, might they move on? It'll be interesting to see, do you move on to a program that is considered above or below? Do you get paid more or less? Is it more about playing time, or is it more about dollars? And we've seen athletes go to 4 schools in 4 years, literally just trying to make as much money as they can within the 4 years that they're in college. And good on them if that is what they want to do. I think that at Iowa, we're used to, hey, kids want to come here to learn, to develop, get better, and then have their chance, maybe as a junior and a senior. We see that in football all the time. We see it in college basketball. It's just, I think we're used to that. I think that's how we feel great about it. But to be honest, college athletics is completely different from when I was around doing it. And I think we all have to get used to it a little bit and trust the coaches that they're going to go, if they lose someone, they're going to go try to find someone that fits the program and bring them in.
Folks, there he is, former Hawkeye sharpshooting great Kent McCausland. I'm Dave O'Hara. We'll be back to close out the show with Hawkeye in just a few moments.
More and more farmers are taking a look at Merschman Seed's Power Core Enlist corn. Here's Ben Pieper, our product manager.
PowerCore Enlist corn hybrids are the fastest growing traits in growers' fields right now. Farmers know that we are choosing the right hybrids for the right acres to put more corn in their hopper at harvest. Combine that with Merschman Seed's starting line seed treatment, growers are finding that high yielding consistency that they're looking for.
Contact your local Merschman Seeds dealer today and ask them about Power Core Enlist corn from Merschman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. As we close out the show in our third and final segment, Kent McCausland is kind enough to join us for the whole show today as we record this on Wednesday afternoon, April 1st. Kent, of course, as you know, a former Hawkeye sharpshooting great and part of that last Hawkeye men's basketball team that made it to at least the Sweet 16. Now this year's team did in 2026. They made it to an Elite Eight, past the Sweet 16. But of course, Kent McCausland I'm talking about, and Kent was part of that 99 team, as I mentioned. He's been on this show throughout our 6-year run on statewide television, as well as previous interviews with me on radio over the years, as well as his former teammates and Jess Settle, J.R. Cott, and Ryan Lursman. A lot of that 99 team's still around, and they were in Houston this year supporting the Hawkeyes. Kent, of course, as we talk about with J.R. being Cooper's dad, Cooper Koch, what a year Cooper had in development. And Ben McCollum, you could hear him almost talking like a proud parent. You're close to the Koch family. You and JR are still very close, and you've known Coop his whole life.
Well, I just think fans need to remember that who you are at the beginning of the year is not who you're probably going to be at the end of the year. And if you put in the work and you're learning and you're listening, I think you have to look at the stats. I always look at the stats at the end of a game. Okay, Sturts plays 40 minutes, of course, but who played the second most minutes in most games? Cooper did towards the end of the year. So that tells me the trust level of what Coach McCollum has in Cooper, right? So not only is he in shape and able to do it, but trust him, needs him. His bench is typically short anyway. He doesn't play a lot of guys. So that told me a lot. When Tate Sage had it going, he just would play him. And you started to see that from Coach McCollum that, hey, when we like a matchup and that matchup goes well, we're not getting away from it. And I think Isaiah Howard, you saw that, okay, for the Illinois game, this is an Isaiah Howard game because he's defending well. Yeah, he had that one tough play against Wagler, right, where he just, shook him and hit the three. But Wagler is a top 10 basketball player in the country. So I just think you look at who's shooting well. Well, yeah, Cooper had some really rough shooting games. And then he had some others where he was great. So it's kind of like he's coming. He's coming. Now, is it going to happen this year or is it going to happen next year? That was kind of my thought or my question. And I just was like, man, he's an important piece to knocking down shots to help give Sturts a little room. Tate Sage was too, in that Nebraska game, huge, knocking down shots. Fulgaris, he is as talented an offensive player as you'll see because he's 6'9", he can dribble, pass, and shoot. But there were games throughout the year where he just was not locked into the game plan and the scouting report. And so then there's a little bit of that trust factor again. Like, okay, what, hey, he was great for these. Maybe there's some other matchups that aren't so good. So, again, I think you always want to look at the season as a total, as a whole, because game by game things change. But I felt like Cooper now, even looking to next year, maybe Cooper's like the leader of this basketball team. Like, who else is really the leader? We know Sturt's obviously a leader. But Cooper kind of played like a junior as this run kind of happened. So now he knows how to get there. He knows the practice. He knows the off season. So he's going to be an important piece along with Tate Sage and others to really, I think, keep that core together, keep that mindset together that Coach McCollum talked about, those Drake guys bringing. Well, now you got some other guys that know that system.
Your Coach McCollum has said, we're going after a big guy. We're going after a 7-footer. If I had more money. Well, you went to the Elite Eight this year. I don't think money's going to be as much of an issue. But and he even said it after the game. We needed size against Illinois. So and no kidding, who doesn't need size against Illinois? Check with UConn after this next game going into the Final Four. And Of course, two Big Ten teams, Kent, no less, are in the Final Four. And talk about taking havoc out on the SEC. The Big Ten was 5-0 this year against the SEC in March Madness. So you've got Illinois playing UConn, you've got Michigan and Arizona, which a lot of people think that's the national championship game in the semis to get to the finals. But regardless, hopefully we've got at least one, if not two teams in the championship game. We'll know that next week. But Kent, that's the thing I find fascinating is in-house who the Hawkeyes have coming back next year. We mentioned Trace Thompson again with Bulgaris, Sage, Cooper Koch. There's some great talent, and a lot of those guys in a similar size and talent range need to get a big guy. And then, of course, how do you replace Bennett Sturts? But you got to go out and get probably a transfer portal guard or two. That seems to be the thought. You're just curious on your state again of mind, not just for the Hawkeyes, but college basketball in general.
What I find really interesting is name a college program in the country that doesn't want a great big man and a great point guard. So, good luck. And that just, to me, that screams bidding war of some kind, right? You're going to have your top 5 guys that you want. Well, number 1 might be a bidding war between who knows. Okay, you go to number 2. Okay, can you get number 2? And then you go to number 3. So, I mean, I think, I don't know if it's that simple. I would not want to be in those rooms trying to figure out, hey, you got him. And then overnight somebody, outbid you and all of a sudden they're on to the different school. I mean, that stuff's going to happen. We won't even know about it. And so then you got to work on a guard. Well, is this guard, playing the Bennett Sturts role, essentially like, hey, pick and roll, flip the pick and roll, flip the pick and roll, kick it, come back and get it, flip the pick and roll, go to the pick, and run the show. Is there really anyone that is that good that's available? Because Bennett Sturts is, projected top 20 maybe in the NBA draft. Who knows where he's going to go, but talented individual that knew the system, had the patience. You don't just learn that. I mean, Bennett Sturts has been in the system for a long time. So to find someone that is that talented, that good, I think that's going to be difficult. So do you have to do it by committee? Do you have to change your program a little bit? Maybe. That's certainly, Coach McCollum and his staff, that's their job to figure out what they want to do with the players they have. And so I think college athletics it's kind of like, I think the NBA and the NFL, especially the NFL, wants to have something going on every month so that they're on Sports Center. It feels that way for college athletics because now we're going to wait and see what happens in the portal, and we're all watching our teams. And Lord knows there's, on X, there's all kinds of misinformation today. It's April Fool's Day. It's all kinds of stuff going on. So it's just goofy. We just got to wait to be patient, see who's staying, who's going, what's happening until we have real concrete information.
But I do want to highlight your last point, which was the focus and intensity Coach McCollum brings. When he puts on that button-up Oxford shirt with that Hawkeye gold tie, he's a whole nother human being.
Over the line, baby. That's what my father used to call it. Hey, you step over the line, you turn into a different person. And
I love it.
You compete at the highest level. So that's what we did. You can see that's what he does too, right? And I would extend that to game day. Like, I don't know if I would even approach him on a game day. So really happy he's on our side. I think he really is competitive, loves to win. And we'll see what the next few days bring.
Kent, thank you so much for taking time to do this. It's great all year long during basketball season, even before. It's been great to talk to you all year with your spot-on analysis, being a former Hawkeye basketball sharpshooting great. Great to see you again. We'll look forward to catching up with you going into next season. Folks, there he is, former Hawkeye men's basketball player Kent McCausland. Kent, my friend, as always, thanks so much. Great to see you.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Truly my pleasure. For Kent McCausland and my production partners at BettorEdge and BettorEdge.com, Greg Kayasky and James Stiles, I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. For Kent McCausland, that's all from us. Thanks to all of you.